What's up, everybody? Welcome to Max Marquee Matchup. We are back here for the first time to kick off the 2025 NFL season. I am super excited. We got a lot of really fun games on the week one slate that I was able to choose from. But fortunately, we kind of started back where Max Marquee Matchup started back with the Ravens fan coming on. Given the fact this is Sunday Night Football between two top four quarterbacks in the National Football League, two AFC powerhouses, two of the best teams point blank period in the league. I had to go here for Ravens and Bills, and of course, this is a divisional round matchup, that divisional round rematch, I should say, between these two squads that ended up 27-25 on a difficult Mark Andrews catch. I shouldn't say it was difficult; it was just tough to watch. I'll put it that way. Unfortunately, to end the Ravens season, of course, the Bills went on to go into the AFC Championship game and suffer an equally tough loss as far as the AFC Championship game in Arrowhead was concerned. And I will not talk about that today, of course. I appreciate these two guests for coming back on. You've seen both of these guys last season. I'm really happy to have him back. So, without further ado, let me introduce our guest today. First and foremost, the guy that came in to kick off Max Marquee Matchups last season, Mr. Ev of Facts and Stats. Happy to have you back in, resident Ravens fan. How you feeling today, man?
I'm great, man. Listen, it's almost Sunday night. I've been waiting on this since Mark Andrews to drop, like you spoke on. So I'm excited, ready to talk some Ravens football. We're going against a phenomenal team in the Bills this Sunday, and I can't wait to hear what both of us say about the game coming up.
Absolutely. And to introduce a fellow Bills fan that ended up coming in and being able to be an asset for us a few different times last season, as the Bills were involved in a lot of marquee matchups as well. Happy to have Ben back of the Mafia Members podcast. Thank you so much for coming back on. Appreciate you. Hope everything is good. How are things up north, man?
It's good. It's good. It took a couple months to get over that championship game for sure, but as every Bills fan is, we're ready to suffer again. So we signed up for another season, so here we go.
Absolutely, I understand. I do love that this is Sunday Night Football. Like sometimes they like to save these, marquee matchups until later on in the season for understandable reasons. But getting right to it, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, two teams that are excellent in the trenches, which always makes football extremely fun. Obviously, weapons on both sides of the ball to be able to get after it. Derrick Henry, an awesome running back. Obviously, James Cook coming off of a career year for him last year as well. Defenses that I think have revamped themselves specifically, that it was a little bit telling based on where they felt like they ended last year's playoffs of saying we need some more juice on that defensive side that we'll get back into a little bit later on. We're going to start out, Ev, asking you about the Ravens. I'm going to ask you guys the same questions, but what's one thing that has you excited for the season? One thing that's got you concerned? And I got the same question for both of you guys. What has to happen for you guys to get over the hump and be in the Super Bowl this upcoming year?
Yeah, the first and foremost, the one thing that I'm looking forward to, or that I'm most excited about this season coming up, is the defense. Whenever you can add two stout rookies and Mike Green and Malachi Starks within the first two rounds of the draft, and you're pairing them with guys like Cal Hamilton, you're pairing them with guys like Marlon Humphreys, Nate Wiggins, Uzier, Roquan Smith, just everything Oway in the season that he had last year, Jair Alexander when he's healthy on the field for us this season. So the thing I'm most excited about this season is easily the defense. I had a lot of high hopes for the defense last year coming into the season. Obviously, we didn't get kicked off right on the right track until like week 9 and week 10 when we made an adjustment with Kyle Hamilton playing pretty much free safety. Malachi starts now starting as a rookie. Similar game a little bit to Kyle, knows how to play the free safety role pretty well, but it also will allow Kyle to be able to move all around the field where he thrives at. He's pretty much a do-it-all guy, one of the best defenders in the football period, no matter wherever he is on the field. So that's definitely the thing that I'm most excited about this season. Worries, I guess you can point out somebody on the offensive line. You still have to worry about guys like so I'm just say 77 on the offensive line that can cause some issues for us when it comes to pressure. Other than that, I really don't have many worries for the Ravens. I think Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman will excel. I think DeAndre Hopkins stepping as a wide receiver 3 is pretty cool. And then we'll still have Wallace, whether it's Wallace or Walker, operating as a wide receiver 4. So just the offensive line play, and then are we going to be able to get more sacks and get home more and finish plays on the defensive side? And then what do we have to do to get to the Super Bowl? Finish, be clutch. It's no reason for Lamar Jackson to not make a Super Bowl this year. None at all. And there's no reason for him to turn the ball over numerous times in playoff games anymore. If he limits his turnovers and the defense maybe even force a turnover or two, then I think we'll easily be able to beat anybody that we play and probably make the Super Bowl. So Lamar Jackson, it all starts with you. Be clutch, lead the team, don't get behind, don't turn the ball over, because we can't bank on everybody else to finish plays when needed. Call Mark Andrews. That was a hell of a drive by Lamar, by the way, to do that without Zay on the field, without Rashad on the field, and likely ends up getting the touchdown, and then Mark Andrews ultimately drops a 2-point conversion. It it still hurts to this day. So I think we have what it takes to get to the Super Bowl. I think we should be able to beat the Bills. We should be able to beat the Chiefs. Obviously, that's on paper and that's coming into the season, but we still got to get it done. So that's pretty much my answer to all three questions so far.
Yeah, absolutely. The Ravens have obviously added a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. Mike Green also looked pretty good during preseason to be able to help out with the ability to get after the passer. To your point, it's about finishing. And it feels like the last 2 years in which the Ravens have gotten behind in both the AFC Championship game in 2023, 2024 here, this divisional matchup with the Bills, they got behind, weren't able to really play their game to start out. Maybe there's a little bit of issues for being able to feel comfortable from that aspect. And like you said, just being able to be better in the first half of those games. So, Ben, going over to you, as far as the Bills are concerned, what's one thing that's got you excited? One thing that's got you concerned going into the 2025 season? And then getting over that hump, what does that look like?
Yeah. So one thing I'm excited about for sure is I really liked our draft. We drafted pretty much all defense. I think we took like a seventh round wide receiver or something like that. But we pretty much went all defense, and so adding that young talent on defense has got me excited, not only for this season but kind of where the team can go two or three seasons down the road once all these guys get a little bit more experience, and kind of some of our free agent signings. If Bosa can stay healthy, that's going to be huge for us. Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt as well. Just adding to different different things that our defense can do. We saw last year in the matchup with the Ravens how bad our run defense was. Derrick Henry 80 some yard touchdown on the first play of the game. So we knew that there was issues with our run defense that we needed to address, and I feel like we addressed them. So I'm excited to see where these young guys can kind of go and what they can do for our defense. And of course, the area of concern is the wide receiver core. It's not a top wide receiver core in the league by any stretch. So not that it really hurt us last season. We were a top scoring team overall, but if you get another injury to Keon Coleman again this year, or if Elijah Moore doesn't kind of live up to the expectations that we have set for him, then it's going to get a little dicey. I feel like on the offensive side of the ball, and for getting through the Super Bowl, I feel like that's why I'm excited for what this defense can do, because really our issue in the playoffs is holding the Chiefs to less than 30 points a game in the playoffs. So anything that we can do, adding Joey Bosa to maybe get a little bit more pressure on Patrick Mahomes or any quarterback for that matter, getting pressure on the quarterback, stopping the run so that teams aren't able to have these long extended drives against us. That's going to be key for us in getting over the hump and getting into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, like I said at the top, I don't think it was a coincidence that both of these teams felt like they needed a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball. Both of you guys were one of the best offenses in the National Football League last year, led by obviously the spectacular quarterbacks that you guys have. The ability then to lean on, hey, can we put these extra assets to try and stop the juggernaut that we're going to see on the other side of the ball, whether it is a Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or a Lamar Jackson, by the time that we get to this late in the season, is the thing that it really does come down to as well. So definitely understand why that was the thing for both of you guys off season as far as an extent was concerned. So with that being said, now we can dive kind of a little bit more specifically into this matchup coming up on Sunday Night Football. Obviously, teams are going to be filling each other's out, given this is going to be week one. Haven't had too much experience as far as what this is going to look like on either side of the ball. I want to start with the Ravens offense versus the Bills defense, and we'll start out asking you, Ev. Obviously, Isaiah Likely seems like he is not going to be there for this week 1 game. I want to ask, obviously his role is significant as far as what you guys can do in the heavy personnel sets and being able to put defenses in conflict. How do you feel like you guys adjust accordingly on offense? And then, in specificity, where do you think you have an advantage against this Bills defense that's added a lot of young pieces?
Yeah, for anyone that taps into the Fact and Stats Daily Sports Show, guys know I'm really high on Likely. I do think this is the season where Likely could emerge as a tight end one. Oh shit, my bad. As the tight end one, as the tight end one. But it doesn't bother me too much with him potentially not playing. He tweeted a clock today. But like I said, I think he doesn't play week 1. He'll probably play week 2. If he's on this field this Sunday, that's a miracle. But either way, Mark Andrews is still in the fold, and we have Charlie as well, who's a really good tight end as well. So we still going to be able to do some similar things. Not saying he's a pass catcher to Likely level, but it's not really going to impact the offense too much, especially when you add a guy like DeAndre Hopkins who can make similar plays or make similar catches to what Isaiah Likely will be able to do for us as well. Because we line him up on the outside, we line him up in slot and or in that heavy personnel set. So not really too much of a worry when it comes to Likely not being on the field. I don't think we need Isaiah Likely to beat this Bills team. Now, where we excel? It's always going to be on the ground against the Bills. Both games we played them last year. One of them we had 270 something like that rushing yards when we won 35-10 in the regular season, and then in the playoff game we had about 176 rushing yards, somewhere in that ballpark. So I know Henry was good on the ground, 5+. Justice Hill was good on the ground, and Lamar was cool, 40 rushing yards or something like that. So I think when it comes to the Bills matchup, even with all the guys that they added this offseason and the young pieces that they have, it's still hard to deal with and game plan to stop a team that is featuring Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Like, that is a lot to deal with. 1,900 rushing yards last season was not a fluke, even at the age of 30. So I think that's where we have the biggest advantage, and that'll probably still be our advantage going to Sunday night's game. I know we're going to be on the road, but we're going to try to establish the ground game. And this time around, we're going to have Zay Flowers on the outside, which we did not have in the playoff game. So it depends on how the defense goes. I think we have a lot of success all around from an offensive perspective. So it's really going to come down to what our defense is. But overall, I think we have the advantage on the ground regardless. So that's where I'm at with it.
Absolutely. And Ben, shifting it over to you, knowing that obviously the Ravens and the run game has been a specific issue for you guys as defense on a consistent basis. We talked about some of those young pieces on defense being added. I'm curious to see how your headspace is at, given that it does appear that Carter obviously is going to be done for the season as far as a guy that was coming in as a young piece on that defensive line. Feels like Maxwell Harrison obviously is going to be out at least the first 4 games of this season as well. How do you feel like you're coming into the season as far as some of the concerns for this Ravens matchup? What are the young pieces that you're really going to be watching for specifically to try and help out with this run game? And where do you feel like you have an advantage maybe against the Ravens offense?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough matchup for sure. You can't take Baltimore and everything that they offer. You can't take them lightly. But for the young additions, this is a great test to see kind of, what they're made of. If you think that a TJ Sanders and a Dion Walker are going to be these good run stoppers, let's go up against the best running team in the league and see what you're made of. Last year, the regular season matchup, we got dominated on the line of scrimmage. So the thing that I'd be looking for from the young guys is to see kind of how they handle that. And are you constantly being pushed back 5 yards before we even get to touch Derrick Henry? I feel like it's going to be a lot of welcome to the NFL moments for these guys. It's going to be a physical style game up front. That's what Baltimore does. And, it's going to be, I'll be interested to see how our young guys handle that and how they respond to it. And will they shrink, or will they stand on 10 toes and put their hand in the dirt and keep going. But it's definitely going to be a tough game. I would say there's no real advantage on our defense because of everything that Baltimore can do offensively. But if you had to pick one, it's trying to force Lamar to throw the ball. We have a disadvantage in the run game for sure. So by default, it would have to be the passing game. I feel like we have a couple good guys. We have linebackers who are good in coverage in Milano and Terrell Bernard. We have Teron Johnson and Christian Benford, who I think is one of the more underrated corners in the league. These guys, these are good defenders. They're really good at in coverages. So if I had to pick one, I'd say our advantage is in forcing Lamar to throw the ball and trying to eliminate the Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson running combination.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand why you would go to that portion. And I think, again, a big piece of being able to earn the right to run the passer is obviously, or rush the passer is going to be a massive piece of this. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the film and put us at the bottom while we do this. But one thing that I was noticing while I was watching this back, it felt like in the second half that the Bills, and I'm sure, Ben, you feel this way as far as the AFC Championship game was, the Bills ran out of pass rushers to be able to go after the Ravens. And it felt like Lamar Jackson had a lot of comfortability in the pocket to be able to attack this defense. And even in some of the circumstances in which they could have a 4-man with a fifth guy trying to spy, they just didn't have enough on the defensive, kind of line to be able to get after Lamar and affect him to then make it, a little bit uncomfortable and trying to fit into tight windows. There was far too much time for guys like Likely to shake free. Obviously, Bateman, Zay ended up missing this game, obviously. But even still, there was enough time for guys to be able to get open. Mark Andrews obviously had himself a good game outside of the two major mistakes. And Lamar Jackson had plenty of time to operate, specifically in the second half, in which I feel like that Buffalo Bills pass rush really kind of just slowed down. And eventually, they decided, Sean McDermott, to be able to send extra guys and be able to try and take an extra guy out of coverage, and that only opened things up more. And so obviously the Ravens weapons are in a better place given Zay Flowers will obviously be out here. I expect that is going to be another, conflict for this entire Bills defense. Do we have the pass rush necessary after we've made these additions to be able to get after Lamar Jackson with 4 and put the proper guys in coverages to be able to, secure the drop back passing game? Because if not, then there's no chance. Obviously, it's going to be difficult enough just to earn the right to rush the passer, as Ev laid out, 276 yards in the regular season, another 176 in this game on the ground to get them in the drop back games. You have to find ways to get off the field when you get Lamar Jackson in true drop back situations, as difficult and impossible as that really is. That does sound and seem at times as well. So that was kind of what I was noticing as far as film for this matchup was concerned. And we'll go ahead and flip back to the triple box for all three of us to talk about the other side of the ball, of course, which is Josh Allen leading this Buffalo Bills offense against this Ravens defense that has felt like they are really supplemented what they have and brought to the table with a nice veteran in the secondary, a nice older guy, or I should say a nice young first-round draft pick in Malachi Starks as far as the secondary is concerned. Ben, you mentioned obviously the wide receivers and what that looks like between Keon Coleman, obviously second-year wide receiver, tabbed as maybe a breakout candidate. Joshua Palmer brought in from the Los Angeles Chargers. Elijah Moore also brought over from the Cleveland Browns. Talk to me about these secondary weapons, and can you see some of these guys maybe step up from where they were a year ago? And where do you think that you need to find that advantage against this Ravens defense?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm fully on board with a Keon Coleman breakout season. If you look at his, he had the concussion from Jordan Poyer in the Miami game, in one of the Miami games, and if you look at his numbers kind of before that happened and after, he was on trajectory to have a pretty decent rookie season. That concussion kind of, he missed a few games and then kind of had his feet stuck in the mud, it felt like, a little bit, and couldn't really get back to where he was. So we're hoping that with a full off season and, just more time with Josh Allen and working on that connection, I think it's going to be a good year for Keon Coleman. I definitely think he's a breakout candidate for sure. One guy it's kind of he's not going to be involved in our offense very much, but his name is Tyrell Shavers. He's been on our practice squad for a couple seasons, but he finally made the 53-man roster this year, and he's kind of that. He's got size and he can separate, and we saw that one-handed catch he made in Tampa Bay. Debatable if it was actually a touchdown or not, but. He's another guy, another weapon, and I feel like we have that everybody eats mentality that they used a lot last year. So it's going to be very. I think our offense is going to look very similar to what it did last year, and I think we just, instead of Mac Hollins, we have Joshua Palmer, which I think is an upgrade. So I think we upgraded. It's still not a great wide receiver core, but I think for the style that we play, we improved on it in the offseason. And so I think that'd be so our advantage, I feel like, is in the passing game. Because we saw last year, it's damn near impossible to run on the Ravens. Their pass defense last year, they did turn it around, like Ev said, kind of later on in the season, they turned it around, but at the beginning of the season, they weren't a very good pass defense. Obviously, they've added pieces, so hopefully it's better for them. But if we were to have an advantage, it's putting the ball in Josh Allen's hands, letting him extend plays, and taking what the defense gives us, because it's hard to cover two wide receivers, a running back coming out of the backfield, and a tight end all at the same time. It creates tough matchups all over the field. So it's just about us exploiting whichever matchup is working that game.
Yes, death by a thousand paper cuts by committee as far as the Bills' offense is concerned, and putting the ball in Josh Allen's hands and going win us this game is always a strategy that seems to work out for Buffalo. Certainly, as far as that is concerned, Ev, as far as your defense is concerned, I obviously talked about some of the additions you guys have had. Brandon Stevens moves on to the Jets, somebody that I'm sure you're happy to see goodbye. Somebody, unfortunately, you lost in the offseason, Darius Washington, as far as the safety room is concerned. Brought in Malachi Starks, brought in Jair Alexander. How are you feeling about those new additions? I know you're extremely excited, so I'm going to allow you to talk about them. And then where do you feel like you have an advantage versus this Buffalo Bills offense? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, he already said it. Sorry about that. Yeah, he already said it. I don't think their wide receiver core is the best. And I'm fine with Josh having the ball in his hand. The problem is when Josh is extending plays, when he's getting out of the pocket and he's able to get on the move, and we're not getting home. And that's why I said earlier, if we're getting home with additions like Mike Green or Owe replicating how he was last year, even Van Noy, even Justin probably bouncing back and having a stronger year to what he did 2 years ago, which led to him getting paid as far as Matabike, sorry. That works in our favor. So I think the addition of Mike Green, who you shouted out, is going to be phenomenal. The way he gets to the quarterbacks, the way he causes havoc, the way he wrecks offensive linemen. I think that's something that's going to probably stand out immediately from game one on down every time he's on the field. And then, like I said, Ardeas will be a big miss. Ardeas was definitely had a good season for us last year, but Malachi Stark should be and probably is better right now. And Kyle Hamilton, we're going to see a lot of Kyle on Sunday night. A lot of Cal on Sunday night. My only question mark is I just don't know if Jair is going to play because he has not really been practicing. Is just dealing with that knee thing. I guess they're just being precautious with it or just letting him rest or whatever the case may be, but he has not really been practicing. So there's nothing came out yet that Jair would not play. But if Jair is on the field and you're seeing Jair, Marlon Humphrey, and Nate Wiggins against that wide receiver core, I'm sorry, I have no worries. Like, that's where I'm at with it. Like, I legit have no worries. And I think we'll be doing good on the ground game. I think we held James Cook pretty well. I mean, both games we played them last year. And like I said, it's going to come down to Josh. Are we making Josh get out the pocket? Are we QB containing? Is he being able to throw on the run? Is he able to giving his wide receivers a lot of time to finally free up? Because I do think the corners will do their job on the outside and in the slot where Marlo will be. So, yeah, man, I think we have an advantage all over, to be honest. So, not even trying to sound crazy as a Ravens fan, but when you add guys like Jair, Mike Green, and Malachi Starks in one off season, and you still have Roquan Smith, who did not have the best year relative to his standards last year, but he's working to improve and get back to that with the hopes of Trenton Simpson improving as a second year starter. It's really hard to be upset what you have on the defensive side of the ball. So, like I said, we did start slow, but we made all the proper improvement because Brandon Stevens is one of the reasons why we even lost that game. That penalty before halftime, I think it was, that was very big. That was a big penalty before halftime, on top of obviously Mark Jackson interceptions and whatnot, and turnovers. But that was a big play in that game. So I don't really think Brandon Stevens is a good corner. I do hope he do well in New York, but I love my room now and the Woozier as CB4. Having Jair come over here for free as CB2, CB3, whatever the case may be. It's a blessing. So I think we'll be good up front. And I see an advantage all over the field for us. And like I said, I'm fine with Josh Allen having to pass the ball. Maybe we can force a turnover or two through the air. So that's where I'm at with it.
Absolutely. I'm certainly going to be interested to watch the second level of that defense and a little bit pseudo as far as when you talk about guys like Owe and Mike Green included in that. But certainly Simpson and Smith being able to see those guys, Smith getting back to form, Simpson being able to elevate his form is going to be something that's going to be key for this Ravens defense all season long as well. So with those matchups now out of the way, we get to kind of get to the fun part of the segment as far as talking about best bets for this game. I will start it out. likely playing seems a little bit iffy to me. I think that Lamar, even though DeAndre Hopkins is going to be somebody that I'm sure that he's going to want to target, I'm not going to say that he's not going to. I think Lamar goes to a little bit of a familiar face. Rashard Bateman is 1.5 receiving or receptions throughout the entire, or 2.5 receptions at -138. I like that play for me personally. So that's where I'm going to go. Rashard Bateman to get 3+ reception is how I'm going with my best bet. Ben, you can go ahead on first, and then we'll go to Ev.
Yeah, so I was just scrolling through the sleeper app before we got started, and the best bets for me are they're both James Cook, over 10.5 receiving yards. I feel like that's a pretty solid bet for James Cook coming out of the backfield, and then over 67.5 yards total. I think if we're going to compete in this game, he's going to have a big game coming out of the backfield and as well rushing the ball. So I have James Cook on both overs.
Okay. Ev, what about you?
Yeah, I have one bet that I immediately love as soon as I seen it. I'm 1000% playing it, and I just know how they operate. And I've been yelling these two names for like the last 7 years now. Lamar Jackson will find Mark Andrews in a touchdown. I mean, to get a touchdown, that's +200. And the reason why I'm saying that is someone on the team just came out the other day and said something about Mark Andrews. I can't remember who it was, but basically saying that he's putting that game behind him. He's ready to look forward to the season, and he's a great competitor / leader. And I do think that when you're trying to, I don't think Mark Andrews is trying to win over the locker room, but I do think he's trying to remind folks like, I am still here. I am still one of the best tight ends in football. And Lamar Jackson, knowing what he went through and when we lost that playoff game, he wants to sort of kind of instill in him, I still trust you. I still believe in you. You are still, we're going to need you to get to where we want to get to. And that's the Super Bowl, not only just getting there, winning it. So I think they're going to prioritize getting him into the end zone when we get into the red zone. And one of those drives this game, and I like that. Mark Andrews +200 score a touchdown anytime. That's for me, 1000%.
I like that play. And honestly, I completely understand that mindset. I think that there's a little bit of parallels with my tight end as well. I think he wants to have that type of mentality of saying, hey, I'm still one of the best in the league, and prove that from week one. I think Mark Andrews certainly wants to try and put that game behind him with a touchdown in week one. So with that being said, I'm going to let you guys give your game predictions and your X factor. Ev, go ahead and start us off.
Yeah, I think we win this game on the road. Statement, and not really much of a statement, but I do think it's a great tone setter. If anybody, we have a tough first 4 games to start off the season. So I do think being a team like the Bills, while still having to play the Lions and Chiefs in that first 4 game stretch, will be tough. But I think we get the win on the road. If I had to guess, 31-27, 31-28, it'll be a close game again. Maybe a key field goal by our rookie Tyler Loop. X factor, Nate Wiggins. I'm all on Nate all year. Nate is going to be the man holding down one side of the field from an outside perspective. And I think if he does his job on Shakir, or whether it's Elijah, or whether it's Keon, I think we'll be fine. So Nate Wiggins is my X factor this game. I think he'll call a lot of disruption, a lot of pattern breakups, and hopefully he brings one home as far as the interception standpoint. Not pick 6, but hopefully he gets one.
Yeah, Wiggins has a very interesting matchup with all 3 of those guys based on the size and differences, and based on all of those guys and what that may end up looking like in the style of those games. So definitely an interesting way. We'll see in which the Bills end up deploying those wide receivers as well. Ben, go ahead and give me your game prediction and your X factor.
Yeah, so first I want to say I hate, this is kind of similar to you guys' matchup in week 1 last season. Like, I hate that a week 1 matchup could potentially determine who's going to host the AFC Championship game, like depending. I just think we need a little bit more time to get into some of these matchups and these kind of games. And I will say, I'm sorry to Bills Mafia, but I don't think we're pulling out the win this week. I think the Ravens. I think the Ravens have a better roster than we do. So I think it's going to be like 30-24 ish, 30-27 ish, something like that. But I think the Ravens are going to pull it out. I don't think we. I see it going a very similar to how the regular season game went last year, and the Ravens can kind of just move the ball. It's going to be tough for us to stop the run there. So I that's how I see the game playing out. If it was to flip and the Bills to win, I think the X factor would have to be Keon Coleman and kind of using some of his size and physical, and his contested catch ability and stuff like that. And we would need to have him kind of dominate the game in order for it to go our way.
Yeah, it's look. I understand where you're coming from, and look, I think Keon Coleman is going to be a massive piece of what this Bills, entire team is going to look like moving forward. And Josh Allen having the trust to be able to give him the ball in those contested catch situations is going to be a massive thing moving forward. But it'd be great to get off to a nice start as far as Week 1 is concerned for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
So appreciate both Ev and Bid coming back. You can find Ev, Mr. Facts and Stats himself, 11 a.m. daily sports show. Make sure you guys tune in on YouTube, on Twitch. That, Ev, is there anything else you want to mention? I know we have the podcast
Yeah,
out, right?
no,
Yeah, go ahead.
I appreciate that. DMac tapped into the show and joins the stage on a day-to-day basis. At Fact and Stats _ on Twitter. That's where you can find everything Fact and Stats related. Daily sports show on YouTube and then on my personal Twitch. But if you follow the Twitter page, you'll see all those links that you need to see. So thank you for that, DMac. Thank you for bringing me on again.
Absolutely. Ben, let them know where you can find them at Mafia Members Podcast.
Yeah, man. Thanks again for having me, Ev. Always nice to preview a Ravens game with you. Social media at Mafia Members Pod, YouTube Mafia Members Podcast. I actually got to interview my first NFL player during the offseason. So I interviewed Michael Hoyt during the offseason. So go check that out on YouTube. So that was pretty cool.
Nice little underrated acquisition for the Bills this offseason, coming over from the Rams. Nice.
I'll have to go Canadian, and he's Canadian too. So
and he's Canadian.
We have that in common.
Yeah, very cool. I'll definitely have to go there and check it out. So again, appreciate both of these guys for coming over for Max Marquee Matchup. Again, we'll be back every single week to be able to preview the biggest game on the slate, man. Once again, I hope you guys enjoy Week 1 of the NFL season. Football is back, man.
Yes,
Peace
sir.
out.
Thank
Hope you guys have a good day.